workshop for the fire in general and our administrative policies and procedures manual workshop to order at 7. Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We take roll, Mayor.
Getzinger?
Here.
Joe? Here. Patrick?
Here.
Murray?
Here.
Swacky here.
Public comments? Okay, we'll move into our work session, 23-24 budget, fire and general fund. Chief, I'm assuming that you have little or no changes?
How do you want to handle this tonight?
Well, I think we need to go back through it and
See if there's any questions on each section, maybe?
I still don't have the tax revenue from Tom, I'm still waiting.
Yeah,
for that.
that's-
So those lines are open, and then, on page, let's see, line item number 54, capital outlay, that's the ARPA funds. I've already paid out the $292,000 for the sirens. The remaining $109,924.10 is due to the fire to help pay for dispatch. So that will be, you can leave that open at 1 or 0.
So you're saying,
you're talking about line 54?
Yep, line 54, capital outlay.
because you're saying some of it was paid this current fiscal year, so the number will be, all of it will be paid out this fiscal year?
Yep.
So that
I'll
really
double
is,
check with the chief, but he gets, Chris, you got my email that you're gonna get 109,000 for the ARPA funds, right? Cause we spent, how much have you spent, 98,000 plus? 113 total, okay. Okay, alright.
but you're saying this was in here as an expense, but that's all
We
gonna
weren't
be-
sure if we were gonna expend it all in this fiscal year,
Gotcha.
so. We can just leave that open at $1 then.
So all the money will be spent this fiscal year.
Oh, and then on the engineers, line 227, with the changes from Spalding for the senior center, just in case, well, we've got 15,000, I don't know if they'll require any more funds, maybe if we should raise that to 20? If we run any issues?
Yeah, they're saying it's gonna go
It's
up
gonna-
another $4,000.
Right, so 20,000? And then the park improvements on page 243. And that's, comes from that Spalding Dedecker, that Taylor sent,
The estimate?
yeah.
That's how much?
298,312.
And we think that's necessary, huh?
Well, they're requiring an ingress and egress,
I mean,
so.
the improvements?
What did you say the number was, Mary?
298,312.
For park improvements.
Yep, for the park
Okay.
and the senior center. You know, we won't know till we get the RFP out, you know, could it be less,
Could be more.
right?
My few questions were really just having a little more discussion on some of the wages. So elections, you're at 12,000, and that
That's for
remind
the
me,
May and February.
because we have 2 elections, you're saying?
Well, next fiscal year, there's gonna be one, it's
The
gonna be,
special, and then
it's a special one, and then the
and the primary.
February, yep.
primary. Okay.
I am having a challenge. Dawn, I love ya, but that raise is, like, she just got a 9% raise in October.
September, right, yeah.
It was in December.
It was
And then-
September.
It was in September.
Yeah, September.
It was in October when you guys voted on it.
Oh,
Retro,
And then
remember we made it retro?
back
I
to
wasn't here that night. I
September.
Oh, okay.
remember, I wasn't here,
Yeah,
but
no,
Mhm.
and, so I would like to hold off unless you're willing to take 5,000 out of yours. out of yours. If you're willing to do that and put it onto the deputy, then I would be for that. And same with John, on the deputy supervisor, what benefits has that brought to the community and the board? And if you wanna keep the deputy, I would have it come out of both of your, like, 5,000 on each of your wages to cover the raise for Dawn and to cover the deputy supervisor.
I did wanna ask, as far as the deputy wages, is that strictly for a wage increase, or is that increased hours, just because of the
It's
discussion?
mainly for the hours.
It's additional hours.
And
Well,
there are some, now, if I'm not mistaken, Dawn is now doing accounts payable
She's helping with it, she's
And-
not doing all of it,
and general payroll.
in general payroll, yes. I was asked to teach her how to do it, so she's learning how to do it.
Well, that's a statutory duty according to the law, so. We did talk about at the last meeting a bookkeeper, and it's been a topic that has been discussed for the last couple of years that I'm aware of. It is a good idea, and it would, I mean, Dawn's working her fingers to the bone. I mean, she's scrambling, and she's working hard on this election and everything else, so, putting a bookkeeper in here, even if it's a part-time, that would help alleviate a
But
lot
then
of the
you're
workload.
adding-
So what you're
adding
saying,
more,
Sarah,
Yeah.
is
still
I'm
adding
not
more.
doing my job. I'm doing my job. It's getting done.
What would the bookkeeper
I
do, in
have
your opinion?
issues with that. I have,
Well, what are your issues? Let's hear your issues, please.
the issues are, the biggest one was putting the fire fund in, overdraft situation, because, and I.
Well, and that was an oversight, but you're the treasurer, you should have been looking at the bank statement too. Is it my job to always look at see how much
It-
money's in there? You know.
Actually, yeah,
You
it
looked at the
is.
payroll, you should have said, well, let's just double check, cause usually in October we do run on funds. And remember, I did have 2 elections.
I understand that.
Things happen.
Do you wanna stop and listen?
Has that been resolved? Has
Yes.
that been
It
resolved?
has been resolved,
It
yes.
was just waiting on tax revenue? Is that what the issue was?
No.
No,
that's
typically in
October.
We
the
had moved,
fall,
we should have moved money from Acumed to the fire fund.
right, typically in the
And
fall, we
this is the
do.
first time in 14 years I forgot. So, miss overstatement.
Are you gonna let me finish,
Sure, go
or-
ahead.
Okay. Typically in the fall, we do run short, the fire fund only, the money only goes so far throughout the year. And the Acumed account is kind of an overflow, that when we're getting short, we pull the money over from the Acumed account to cover all the basic fire fund bills and everyday and payroll and everything else. It wasn't done this time in oversight, absolutely, everybody makes mistakes. I'm not placing any blame per se, cause I wasn't here to know what, I mean, and it's not like, it's not me, I'm not the person that's gonna place blame. However, when I write checks, whether it's our business or personal or here with the tax bills, even though I know that every penny that comes into the tax department goes into the tax fund, nothing is touched out of it, of course, until it's time for a disbursement. But even before I write those checks, knowing full well that the money is in that tax account, I still go online and look to see exactly how much is in there, and if my checks, you know, are within that balance, and they always are, because there's always more in there, because checks are coming in, you know, after the disbursement time, but I still always check the balance before I write checks. And I just, again, making an assumption, and you should never assume, but I assumed everybody did that, because that's one of the basic things you'll learn when you're 18. You don't write a check unless the
This
money's
happened-
in there.
This is the first time it's happened in
Yeah.
14?
In a long time.
Yeah, so I wouldn't
It never
use
happened.
Like
that
I
as a
said,
single
it's-
reason to get a bookkeeper.
No, but it's been talked about for a few years, and a few years ago, even Mary said she wouldn't mind having a bookkeeper, and then she changed her opinion on that. So it wouldn't hurt. It would help give another person in the office here that could kind of help with different things. It would take a lot of stress off of Dawn.
I am just so confused. seriously, because this was brought up at the last budget workshop. And I asked, so, and Chris was here, who else was, but there was like 3 of them here. Oh, John, her husband, and Dawn. And it was like they all got along and the work was getting done. So I don't understand why we would add something like that. And that's something, I'm glad you bring it up, because next year, it's gonna be, if everybody has to run for office again, then I really am proposing, and it was on iHeart, and Vox Adams had a great comment of hiring a manager. And the only way I would do that is to cut these wages down to 8,000, have the trustees, and then move forward. Because this is not working. It's very clear that this is not working. You have to have somebody leading the team. And we have no coach. And that's just where we're at right now. It's not working.
What does that have to do with the deputy treasurer's wages?
It has to do, like, if her job is getting done, and if this clerk is doing her job, the statutory duties are being done. There was one incident where checks bounced, and, I mean, that just should not happen, because honestly, it made the fire department look bad. Because I had 3 people come and say, what is going on? It made it sound like the fire chief or the officers were writing checks and bouncing checks, like what are they buying? Just the way that was presented at the board, it made the fire department look bad. That is not good either. Like, so we have to be really careful when we are writing checks, when we're taking money and depositing it. It's just like, this is a tough job. You guys have the toughest jobs, and Dawn, those are the toughest jobs. And you know what? I commend you guys for doing that.
All right, well, there's no question that my deputy has a value to me, and there's no question that she helps.
Does she have it to you or to the township?
To the township.
And what is that? Because I was at the county commission meeting when we lost Powell Road to annexation, and I gotta tell you, I was pretty disappointed, because I heard a board that
We actually had a
That wine.
reconsideration, even after the annexation, they still haven't run sewer and water, so it wasn't about sewer and water.
but we still
I mean,
lost-
now we've
we
replaced
still
the road.
lost Powell Road, and then we just got
No,
more
we
money
haven't.
to fix Powell Road.
We have
and
not,
road
we have not lost Powell Road, and we paid a portion less because it was annexed into Romeo Village,
We still paid $106,000.
which was less than $189,000.
Read that?
Well, and go ahead and keep your deputy, but pay for her out of your wage. Reduce your wage by $5,000 to pay your deputy. And Mary, I'm gonna just ask you to lower your wage by $5,000 to make up the difference for Dawn. It's up to you guys. I mean,
Well, we have,
we
But
can't
our-
make you do it.
Well,
We
my
can't
duties
make
aren't
you do
getting
it.
reduced, so, and Dawn has been handling everything just fine. I talk to her every day to see how she's doing. I come in at nighttime, or if I'll meet her here, we take care
Yeah,
of
you guys
everything.
were here Friday when I stepped
Yeah,
in
we
to
take
get
care of
my cat
everything,
back,
yep.
so.
You know, John's deputy, she's only supposed to read, financial documents and help with the BSNA, the code enforcement. Nothing else, really, as far as I know, the board didn't give her any other duties, but if he needs her to do that, that's fine.
And she's gonna be doing, we just voted to have her do the scanning.
The code enforcement, yeah,
Yep.
Okay.
that's what that
So,
is.
And
and that actually would come out of code enforcement.
when she's getting paid, is she, I mean, when she's doing that to get a paycheck, is she here doing it, or is she at Ederick Mold doing it?
She's here, she has to,
Okay.
she'll be programming all the code enforcement stuff in out of the office, filing cabinet,
Okay.
all of that's here. And I have a $5,000 budget, and I have used just over $3,000. But her value to me, I would say I would take $2,000 off my wages to put it in there and keep it at $5,000.
Okay,
I have no issues with that whatsoever.
okay.
You have to write a letter.
Yep, I'll write the letter. And it's the same kind of thing, like when we talked about, because Mary and I sat down and talked, and we had actually a decent conversation about, willingly wanting to, roll back her wages. We do have to admit, or we do have to do it on our own merit, per se.
Right.
And, that's why I even asked about the healthcare stipend for, Mary to consider, because she gets healthcare paid for in Bruce Township. So we have taxpayers in Bruce Township paying taxes to Bruce Township for her healthcare, and taxpayers in Armada Township paying taxes for her healthcare in Armada, which she's getting it provided by another taxing authority. So I felt that was something that she would consider, or could consider, passing on.
And that's fine. I mean, I just think that it's, like, we need to be reining it in, because we're gonna have some big expenses coming up. And just like with the fire department, when that opportunity came to buy a new amazing ambulance, they had the money available, they were budgeting very wisely, they had that vision, they had that capital outlay mindset. We have to be ready, because when water and sewer come, and it's coming,
We just don't know when.
Washington Township, it's like right there. We have to be ready to jump.
Right.
And you know what? At the rate that we're going, we're gonna be lucky to be able to go out for a bond. So these are big issues.
And getting back to the health side, but if I give mine up, then the two of you should give yours up too.
Well, I guess the only reason I looked at it differently, Mayor, was the fact that I don't have anybody I pay for mine out of my pocket. Brian pays for Sarah's out of her
Okay,
pocket.
so another business pays for hers.
But Brian also pays taxes to Armada Township for our stipend, and Brian also pays taxes to Bruce Township for healthcare, so Brian's paying yours there, he's paying yours here, I'm paying yours here, and we're still paying ours.
So I'm paying into mine too.
Yeah, I would actually agree with the clerk on, it'd be hard, in my opinion, to give, I get your perspective.
I still
John,
got
but-
deductibles
But I
and
do
stuff. Who
think
says everything's?
it's really, it's not providing health insurance, it's a
It's a
stipend.
stipend.
In that sense, it's kinda like
Got a
we use
label
it
on it.
as you will, and you both happen to have your own businesses, so you're paying for it
We're paying for our own
personally,
businesses, right.
personally versus you also could work for somebody else instead, it doesn't have to be your business, so.
But we don't, we pay for our own.
Yeah, I get that, but I mean, it's not, I guess if it was written differently. I don't support the health care stipend to begin with, so I'm not saying I'm supporting, Mary. I'm just saying it should kinda needs to be consistent. I have a hard time with one over the other, on that particular item. I do think when we talk about the policies, I think there's maybe some opportunity to talk about, expectations, and are we legally allowed, or should we include, certain number of office hours for any of the staff? That may be part of the discussion, where I think, is there a way to wages, like Monica was saying, as far as what's almost a base wage that, all the board members get, or certain board members get, there's a lot of discussion that could.
Let's be clear about the base wage, none of it's a living wage.
And it shouldn't be, it's 24 hours a week.
None of it's,
I
yeah,
don't know of any living wage that is, unless you're a movie star.
none of it's a
where
living
it's
wage,
a
that's, you
where
don't do this to make a
24 hours a
living.
week is living wage. You have the opportunity to go and get another job, work an additional 16 hours to make up, but a 24-hour a week job, that's not a living wage. That should not be. You should not be working 24 hours a week and expect to live in a home with a vehicle and all of that. I mean, you gotta work. Gotta work for your money.
Armada's not unique, this is the typical township government, so it is tough. Cost is a big thing to me, and it is to Monica too, but what Monica was talking about as far as a manager, obviously, say as communities get bigger, they tend to have a at-will employee that kind of is overseeing, which does tend to work out some of the kinks. I'm not saying I'm ready to support that,
Right.
but there's,
Well, I wouldn't right now.
but there's thought to that. Right now, the wages that are paid, even though they're not living wages, they're certainly set to a level because there's a lot more certain tasks, there's more expectation based on our other staffing, you know, lack of staffing, I guess, so.
Well,
There's a big discussion that it'd be tough to really answer a lot of those questions tonight, but that is something we should be discussing.
I believe that more responsibilities have fallen to Dawn.
I agree. I think, and Mary said that's why their hours are increased. It's clear that Dawn's doing more because you're not here. But legally, it's certainly been determined that
Well,
as long
usually
as the
elections,
clerk's,
she's here 4 days a week anyway,
as
so.
long as the clerk's doing what she's statutory required to do, I know we maybe have added tasks, and that's our policy manual.
Everybody's always
know.
had added tasks. I mean, in the clerk's office right now, we do the ordering of office supplies. That was the treasurer before that, so I wouldn't mind. Dawn, would you mind giving up that and give it to the treasurer's office? I mean,
That's
you know,
fine. I
there's
can
other
take it
tasks that
on.
we've taken on. We've taken on a lot of things. Elections are more stringent. It's more
Oh.
preparation. It's a
Yeah.
lot,
Elections
It's
are a
huge.
lot, and
It's
it was always,
you know?
and I will just say, I have no idea what was done in the
Yeah.
past as far as office supplies.
Yeah.
I came in and
That's what she did.
it was just, you said if I needed anything to
Yeah.
let Dawn know,
Yeah,
so,
anytime.
but
But
I'll
yeah.
take it off your hands, Dawn, it's no problem. If that's what you want, if that, you know, I mean, I don't think it'll help a whole lot, but it will help some, I'm sure.
I don't care what you pay her, I just don't think $8,000 increased in budget is,
Yeah, I do have a problem with that budget also.
That budget has been in place since
I
2008.
understand that, Mary, but when you plan a budget, anybody, not just you, I'm just talking in general, you look at your wages. I mean, I knew, like, I didn't use Chris as my deputy a lot this year, which, you know, worked out well for the budget. But I knew that the postage rates have been going up astronomically, and
let's
so
face it,
I knew there was an
The Treasurer's
increase.
Department has utilized $4,259 to date on her deputy.
You know, so,
You work under your you work inside your budget.
right,
Well,
but I
that's
know
right.
that the
But as part of
postage
that-
has gone up, and so I know that since I haven't used her that much, and I don't foresee all of a sudden needing to, you know, use her a ton more. I mean, there's times that we work together more often than others, but, I was very comfortable with saying I need to increase my postage because postage rates are going up. I don't know if I'm gonna use my allotted amount for postage, but I wanna make sure there's that buffer there. And in doing that, I reduced my deputy's line item by the same amount because I will make sure that I don't go over budget. And that if I need to, you know, do something, if I'm,
The key
I
really,
just
She
keep
only
her
used
hours
this
on.
the
because
key
she
is
moved
for all
over
of us to
planning
operate our
zone.
departments inside our
it
budget.
wasn't just that, I wasn't
Increasing the
using her that
budget
much before.
$8,000
No, I
she
know,
moved
is a
over
yeah,
lot.
yeah.
Well, just to be fair on your comment, John, do you think are the deputy treasurer wages lower just because you're utilizing Chris, who's,
She has the same wage she hired in at.
I just mean because she's working in
doesn't.
another department?
Yes,
is
she
that
does.
She's got it,
Oh,
she's paid
well,
by salary.
no.
Impacted that?
In my department.
Well, she
It's
still,
the same wage.
she still bills hours against the treasurer's department when she
Yes,
helps the
when
treasurer's
she-
department.
yeah.
Okay, wait a minute, so she's getting a salary. She gets
But
paid a
does
salary.
she get less?
So how is
Yeah,
she
does
getting paid for doing the
She's
treasury?
not getting paid for doing the treasury.
So how you bill?
She's
what's-
tracking the
I'm
hours.
keeping track of her hours.
She's tracking how much time she spent working on the clerk's office stuff, which was the chart of accounts, and how much time she's helping the
It'll-
treasurer
it'll
and
get-
working for salary.
And you're saying that'll get transferred, if you will, that value from one department to the other?
Right,
is what-
which leads us to another thing, is we've got, well over,
So has that been, is that
Nope.
current, the 4,000? Have you transferred?
If I took
Those
what,
wages.
the hours, I'd still be under budget. No, it would
Well, I
be more
just
than
mean it's more-
4,000,
okay.
but I'd still be well under
Okay.
but
budget.
Chris is pretty much, she has put together the chart of accounts and added, or re-inspected a couple times and verified. Even my deputy had time verifying it with her. And now, I think you guys just put it in BSNA if I'm
Yeah,
not
we did that on
correct. So
Friday,
it was
yeah.
finally just put into BSNA,
Yeah,
which Chris
Well, that's
Martin
fine.
did.
yeah, yeah.
So
And-
those hours are gonna have to come from the treasurer's department back into the building department because the money's coming out of the salary.
Yeah, so that
And that's
number will go
none
up.
of that's adjusted for in anywhere in here.
And the thing is, Chris and I
What's
were
under-
working on that together. If I thought it was gonna cause problems and pettiness
Well,
like
Chris
this,
is
I
pretty-
wouldn't have even
but-
asked her.
but-
I like Chris. She's doing a wonderful job. She really is. I have no problems with her.
She's
at all.
done the chart of accounts on her own.
I started helping her.
You guys, you
I
found
see.
out in 2020 this needed to be done. And now we had a couple of months left. She picked it up in January.
It wasn't just in January. No, we were doing it last year.
Is that specifically?
I've
the-
got a whole folder on it. Don't, you know,
is
don't
that
start this
specifically the
crap.
clerk's
you know?
responsibility to do
Whatever.
that?
But anyway, I just have a question. So Chris is getting paid a salary to do planning and zoning. So the $13,000, are you gonna get another deputy? Or how does this transform? How does she get,
I'm
is she getting
keeping-
paid? I'm all confused.
All
I
right,
really
I'm
don't
keeping
understand.
track of her hours because when she was hired in at building and planning, there was no vacation allotment for her because she replaced Christine, who was under contract and had X amount. And because Chris is an at-will employee and did not take, she just took what was, you know, the salary, and that was it. And then she said she would not take any deputy hours, which is fine. I mean, because I don't use her that often that it's like I don't need her all week, every day, all week, you know, every week. So, but because she wasn't getting any vacation time at the end of a year or whatever in building and planning, I kept track of her hours so that she would still get her annual vacation hours based on what she worked for me. But now with the new thing going into effect with the new policy manual, I probably don't need to do that anymore. I'll still keep track of it just so I know
That doesn't
how
make
much
sense.
she works for me, but
Well, if you paid her,
She lost.
let's just use a general, if you paid her $5,000 out of the building department to do deputy work, or treasurer's work, that 5,000 should go back into the building
I get
department.
that 100%. That's what I thought where
Yeah.
this is going, but you started talking about vacations, so now I'm confused.
and
Is she
I
get-
was
is
just
she
keeping
getting
track
paid,
of it.
uh,
No,
Extra then?
no, she's not.
She's on salary.
She's on salary for building
What
and
does that do
planning.
with vacation?
It was just a way to keep track, basically. So if she didn't, if the
Because
policy wasn't changed.
the deputy treasurer gets an average wage on vacation every year.
Yes.
That's already written in.
So based on how
When
many
she-
hours
she-
they work,
When she
That's
took
what they're-
over the
that
building
she was-
department, it's not written into our policies and procedures, so she qualified for that because Christine was under an employment
Gotcha.
contract.
So I
we
wanted
didn't
to
have
make
that,
sure that
which is
she
why
at
we
least got
included the building
something. But now with the
administrator in.
policy
Sure.
manual
Policy.
being
Okay,
that makes
changed,
sense. Tracking the hours to essentially say you have earned X number of vacation days or hours
Hours,
because of
yeah.
the
Sick
time
days.
based on the
Yep.
hours that.
Well, she was already paid for a vacation under the deputy treasurer in November. She was already paid for those hours.
right.
So then she started in planning. After, what date? I don't remember when she started.
But that money that she's worked on the chart of accounts, which is well over 100 hours, needs to go back
It
in.
gets transferred from one fund to the other,
Right.
so it's
And that
appropriately
needs to come from the
charged.
clerk's department.
It's not coming from the clerk's department.
Where's it coming from?
Is that
She's
specifically
already
a
been,
clerk's
she's been
item?
paid, she's been here, she's been doing the work in the office. You're getting so petty about everything. I
He
don't
was
really-
supposed to do the chart of
Yeah.
accounts.
Nobody said I was supposed to do it. I was gonna get the auditor to help me do
Yeah,
it.
is that
And then
a-
Chris said she would offer to help me
The
do it.
auditor said they
auditor
weren't,
refused.
they weren't gonna do the chart of
To
accounts.
me, wouldn't it be fair to split that between the treasurer and the clerk? Is there
That's
something?
a bookkeeping, the chart of accounts is the bookkeeping end of it. Which I get Mary's doing bookkeeping, that's what she's always done.
Okay.
You know, we went
I mean,
from
both,
QuickBooks to BS&A. So that's just a responsibility that's been done by the clerk forever. Always has,
Okay.
since
I just
before,
mean,
since before you became a clerk.
Right,
both-
that's not a
both
statutory duty or
use,
anything, it just
I
gets
know
pushed
one's
on.
revenue, one's expense, and both use the chart of accounts, I mean. Or
Well,
maybe all the
she's
funds
just,
should,
she's just all receivables here.
maybe all the funds should share in some of the hours of the charts of accounts.
Well,
It's for the fire department
treasurer
too, I
does
don't know.
receivables
Yes, I mean-
and, clerk's office does payables. That's all.
Yeah, but I'm getting at is all the departments,
The chart of accounts
Use the new
are
chart of
where the
accounts.
monies go into for our budget. It's
Yeah.
not, the treasurer doesn't set those, we do as a board.
okay.
And that was a state mandate too,
Right, right.
that the chart
Yeah.
of accounts needed to be changed, so it wasn't,
All I'm getting at is there's no, it's not written somewhere that says that needs to come out of the clerk's
No.
fund. So you're 100% right that if the building department shouldn't be paying for that work or all of that work, but it may be more appropriate to, since we're talking about this, to split it between, in my opinion, I am not a clerk, I'm not the treasurer, but in my opinion, that may be fair to split it between some of the funds.
Well, doesn't the policies and procedures say to share duties when you can help and stuff like that? I mean,
Well, we've already crossed that threshold because now you're saying you're not gonna help the treasurer's department or the building department.
I don't do building.
So we don't have shared
Help 'em do what?
responsibilities.
Help them do what?
Whatever.
When Chris has bonds ready, I issue, whatever she gives me to do, I take care of.
Okay.
All right, I just wanna get this point in, cause I started it and was interrupted. When you said that the deputy wages clerk's line item hasn't been changed in forever, I understand that, but she has gotten raises over the course of the last few years, and that number has never changed.
Right, and that was an oversight too. Just like the senior center too, with Donna, we've given her raises, hers needs to be increased. That's what we're doing
Right,
this year.
but that's,
Yeah.
I mean, you
It's
need
an
to do that.
oversight, too.
Right, but
Yep.
it needs to be done every year, not just like, oh shit, we screwed up and we're over budget, let's change it. It needs to be done
Sure. no
every
problem.
year.
Yeah.
Budget amendments cannot happen, and any account will tell you, you don't do budget amendments, especially not for just whipping money back and forth. It's just the wrong thing to do.
But budget amendments do happen.
In an emergency situation,
Not always an
absolutely,
emergency
stuff, I mean,
situation,
stuff
but-
comes up that
Yeah,
you,
But that's why
Actually, not supposed to
This
change the budget so we
budget-
know where we are.
this budget needs to be like so in place, cause we should not have to do more than 8 budget amendments a year,
I agree,
unless it's an emergency.
right. Like,
written
Unless it's
somewhere?
an emergency, and so we over budget, you're like, we just have to be thinking, and I don't mean in wages, I mean in
just if
parks
something,
and rec.
right, if
building
something,
and anything.
right, yeah,
You know,
add,
just
tack a
like
few
you have
dollars
to
onto
be-
it to cover,
Yeah.
exactly.
Because like the gasoline, for the fire department.
The gas
the
bill, the
gas-
electric
gas
bill,
bill
everything,
For the mileage,
right,
all of
Just
it.
went up,
It
yeah.
just went up again.
right.
It's like we have to
So that's
be
why, yes, and that's,
thinking about like, let's get this in place because, you guys, I'm telling you, I've been out there for years. When I am listening to these budget amendments, it's not right, and that's when people start thinking, what the heck is going on?
I have to agree with you.
Well, this year has been real tough. This year in particular has been real hard for projecting. You look at historical,
Mhm.
everything's gone up so much. So
But we all
This
know
year
that
in particular.
with inflation, we need to be increasing these
Yeah.
where we can. And we need to be decreasing
Where we can. And a big factor, and I know, you don't have the numbers from Tom yet, but I mean, that's gonna be a huge,
Yeah,
eye opener when we see
Yeah.
whatever that is,
Yeah.
because we may think this looks absolutely perfect the way it is. I'm not saying that, I'm just saying as a example, and then numbers come in from Tom, and it's like, oh no, sharpen those pencils again.
yeah. And then we can revisit it, but we should revisit it like in a every quarter. Let's just really take some time and go over the budget and see where we're at. And what's been happening in the last 3 months that we might need to adjust someplace. You never know.
do you mind if we move on to another? I know Gary's here. I do want to touch. The parks wages and the senior center wages. So, just briefly touch on those. So, would it be appropriate to have Gary say anything? I know he's submitted that paperwork. It's line 239. It looks like. So
Gary's at 4,200 right now.
Well, it says 38.
And he wanted, yeah, but he's at 40, that's his annual, is 4,200, he's asking for 7,200.
Says he's at 3240.
That's current, that's today.
That's how much,
That's the
that's how
date.
much it's been
So if
expended.
it's 30, is it 3,600 a year? It's 400,
The
Wait.
budget last
4,200.
year was 388865, it looks like.
but it's 4,200, I don't recall. Do you know? 300, so it's 3,600?
That's what it is, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And you're looking,
Well, I think there was a cost of living increase in there somewhere, so the number
Yeah.
probably a little bit more than that.
maybe that's where the
Yeah,
3888.
because it says according to this sheet anyway, that the original, or the original budget for 22-23 has you at, where'd it go? 388865, so that would account for that.
But to basically
Cost of
double
living.
7,200. So do you right now, do you take water samples just when the park's open, you're taking them? Do you,
3 times a year.
and you're driving them over to Richmond probably
I
currently?
drive in Richmond 3 times a year and 1 out to Eagle once a year. And Lansing.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
They don't take them by mail anymore.
No?
It's
They changed the policy without telling anybody. So we spend all the money to mail them there, only to find out they're not.
They're not taking them.
They're not taking them. I think,
is that during COVID?
no, I don't think COVID had anything to do with it.
Keeping it cold enough probably did.
Well, there's definitely a time hold.
They get it and let it sit on the counter for 5 days, and then they
Well,
wonder why.
They send you a cooler and you put in a cooler, they give you ice pack in a cooler and you send it in.
Yeah,
They gave me hope.
But that's what I mean, you mail it to them, then it sits out there for a week and a half after it's been in mail for a week and a half.
But they have to test it within 48 hours.
yeah,
That's
48.
right.
So it has to, they have to test it as soon as they get it. Be 24-hour overnight it with a cooler pack, it should stay cold enough.
That's the only reason that's my assumption why you're driving it out there is because when it get there, they weren't testing it in 48 hours, it was sitting on a shelf someplace. You know, so it wasn't getting tested in time, you drop it off the door, they gotta handle it right there.
Well, my conversation was a little different than that with, when I talked to the guys down the road here. They gave me a whole bunch of excuses, didn't make sense to me, so you gotta take them out there.
Yeah.
And you go up there, people are lined up and there's coolers all over.
Yeah, yeah.
Really?
And then you deal with use when people are asking to, I guess, reserve, fields and stuff.
Yep, schedule everything for the fields, pavilion.
And then this year we had the lights. You were,
Well, we also have that, the pavilion rental
Yep.
form too.
yeah. And then we had the lighting project this year in particular.
Oh,
Yeah,
two,
the sheet,
Oh, yeah, yeah, I guess I'm just talking out loud. So to me, it's, I would call it a hassle probably for what you're doing.
Well, when I came on board 11 years ago, I took over from Matt. We had 2 ball diamonds.
Uh-huh,
Look what's happened since.
Right.
We've added Ball Diamond Skate Park, lighting, another pavilion, another playscape, 2 playscapes. I mean, it's all listed there. All the
Yeah.
things that have
I forget
been
about
added
the
since.
playscape. So like garbage, you go out there very often, just check on the park?
Oh, yeah.
oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
In the summer, actually starting in May, I'm out there 3 or 4 times a week at least to do the garbage. I was just in the garbage the other day at the skate park. And I leave a garbage can in the pavilion for dog stuff.
yeah,
People to put their garbage. So,
yeah.
Also, under the park improvements, besides that, the entrance, Gary talked about new picnic tables in the grandstand. That's not accounted for in there.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
That's a big area too, when you're walking that, so.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of, I guess I'm comparing it to myself as a trustee and the time we have, and that's I know, I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
it's
a lot
quite a
more.
bit. So what
Yeah.
I'm getting at is,
When,
it's like to
With the
me,
value.
if the meeting's not till 7, your whole evening's taken up just for, so if he's having to go to the park all the time.
You don't have to try to justify paying a man $7,200 to run your park a year.
I'm just, okay,
No.
just talking out loud
There's
to,
a lot of things I forgot to add.
Yeah.
I'm
Sure.
on call- I'm basically on call because there's a, you know,
Yeah.
the senior center had a party at the pavilion and the water stopped working. So she called me because we had no water in the bathroom. So I had to drive up there and the filter's clogged. I gotta put a new filter. Basically, I'm at,
yeah,
and there's been phone calls about bathroom issues and stuff like that where I have to go up there. So basically, I'm calling time. You know, it's not very often, but it does happen.
Sure.
Especially when they have tournaments and stuff like that. Run out of supplies or bathroom issues or something.
I don't think you have to justify $7,200 a year for watching over the park.
and so and then the wages for the senior center, those are basically for,
That's for Donna, that's based on, cause she averages
She's
between like
hourly, though.
90 and 100 hours a month, so I took 95 hours times 12 is 1140, times her wage is about $18,000.
She does a lot of things with those people.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I
Plans a
know.
lot of trips and
Well, yeah, I know,
a lot of, yeah,
yeah. She does a good job.
yeah, she does.
okay.
And they all
I just thought it was
enjoy
important
so
to touch on I was just asking, you know.
Yeah.
I thought it was important for us to discuss any significant change in
Oh,
the wage.
I agree, Jim.
And she loves the job.
She does a good
Yeah.
job.
She does do a good job, and a lot of people are very happy, and
And,
you
and,
know, they take
But
part
that's
in a
a,
lot.
you know, that's an all week long, all kinds of activities and
sure.
Mhm.
job. It's not, yeah.
And Tom wasn't able to even imply like a percentage of potential increase that we might have yet as far as tax?
Well, we'll see, maybe we'll have something by tomorrow. It's usually the end of February though.
I don't have any more new items to bring up, at least tonight. Is everybody else good with the budget for right now, at least as far as discussion goes?
Well, you know, I think, are we having another workshop or does this go to straight to truth and
We
budgeting?
could have, well,
We
there's
have
another
one
one for
more.
March 2nd if we want. Unless we don't have any other changes.
I think we need at least one more workshop after we get the money, the budget numbers from Tom.
Well,
So
quite
we can
honestly, I think
actually-
between the policy manual and that, we'll have enough to, even if it's a
Yeah.
shorter meeting, I expect we'll meet again. I think, I would suggest we meet again, I should say.
Yep, that's why we have 4.
Mhm. And March 2nd, you said is the next one?
Right.
I know I've got it in my calendar, but,
Yeah.
and there were no issues with you on that date, Monica?
No. that
Okay.
should be good.
I knew there was a couple that
That's a
had to be
Thursday.
moved.
Right.
And you're gonna stay at 23,000 for your deputy?
Yep.
And you're not taking any compensation? Okay.
Are we good to start on the policy manual?
Yeah.
I know Sarah had gone through and provided some comments.
Yeah, thanks
Certainly,
for,
we'll walk through that. I think we should basically start at the beginning, and if anybody has comments as we go through again, we'll definitely hit the ones that are specifically listed there. Okay, so Sarah had commented about the authority to the deputy clerk, so is that intended to be specific to, if a new deputy comes in, that it has to be?
Just the deputy clerk, yeah.
So,
That's what Christine Anderson said, just to put deputy clerk in there.
so it wasn't specific to Dawn?
No. It's a deputy clerk.
Okay.
It makes no sense to put someo's name in
Yeah,
in the
I
policies
wouldn't
and
recommend putting a
procedures.
name here. I didn't know if we needed to reword it to
Okay,
say.
and I was not aware of that, so I thought it should be known just, that it should be listed and,
I mean, if the board feels that anytime there's a new deputy that it should be brought to the board, then I would say you could word it to say, upon authority given, somehow word that, but otherwise, if it's intended to be
Yeah, just the clerk or
always a
deputy
deputy
clerk.
clerk, I would say we should
That's it.
okay.
leave it the way it's written. John or Monica, do you have any,
No, that's-
you okay with the way it is?
perfect.
Okay. Okay, so, I agree with Sarah, wasn't sure, so just to be clear, when we talk here, when I'm basically the secretary, I put stuff in based on our comments, so my intention is not to I'm not really giving recommendations, I'm trying to give something for discussion, so I know it's this part, I wasn't sure
And I
how the
wasn't,
board wanted to do, like, what if the meeting day isn't a Wednesday? So I wasn't sure if it should stay
Right.
the business days, or it could be, I certainly like the idea of the second Wednesday, listing the days, like you had said, of the week. That's a lot easier. I didn't know if the rest of the board felt
Yeah.
the same way, so I didn't want
and
to
I
put that in
just,
there.
I wanted to put it all in writing because if I looked for my notes, like for tonight, I didn't know if I'd be able to find them because it's been extremely
Sure.
busy in there.
Sure.
So that's why I did it. I was not expecting any response, and I'm glad nobody did because that would, I just wanted to get it out there. So I guess you guys knew that I looked through it, I was doing
So
stuff,
if
and it
we-
was case, so I didn't forget anything.
Didn't we have the discussion that if it was in by Wednesday at noon, it would be ready
Yeah,
by 4
so-
Thursday?
My memory, I remember talking about late, and in my head I was like, oh, it's the end of the day. I didn't put 11 p.m. as like a realistic, but if
Yeah.
it was, I missed that, if it was 4 p.m., then.
Yeah, I think by the end of the workday.
Because I thought we talked about Friday morning for some reason, so I was.
Yeah, no, because, we always, in the past, have had it by the end of the day on Thursday, because the office is closed
Not
Friday.
Right,
So,
I
but Monica
99.5% of
said
the time.
that you were gonna keep doing it on Thursday.
As long as we got everything
As
to
long
her
as we get
prior,
everything,
yeah,
Wednesday by noon.
yeah.
So,
I can come in, yeah, and then have to do it Wednesday.
So let's.
so you do it
let's-
Wednesday night, so it would be available.
Yeah.
So,
And I'm not, and no forgiveness, if nobody has anything in by that noon, that's.
I think there are
So-
some exceptions, but I think that should be an exception, like we've discussed.
If it's emergency.
If there's an emergency, sometimes something comes in late, but generally speaking, I agree 100%. If it's not that important or it wasn't there before, then it has to be
Right,
tonight.
and like I mentioned to her, depending on, like for my reports, if
the bank
the,
doesn't.
depending on where the meeting falls, whether I've got all of the, reconciliations done, because some of them don't come in right away, some of them don't come in till the middle of the month, which
It would just go to
That's
the
fine.
next.
it would,
Yeah.
yeah. And I would just email them to everyone too, so,
Yeah,
I would not expect to
So-
have to give it to Mary or Dawn and have them do it or whatever. I'm perfectly capable of contacting all of you myself.
Yeah.
Because it says 11 PM on the first Thursday of the month.
that was, again, me putting something in for discussion based on my recollection of the meeting, not that I was recommending that.
Okay?
So,
I know, I saw that and I'm like, whoa.
So are we, so there's a couple things in here. There's persons not on the board. And
Mhm.
if somebody wants an item on the agenda, clearly they need to ask to have it added, similar to how we would, but it's to the clerk or the supervisor. To me, that needed to be, if the clerk or the supervisor are gonna have time to prepare what they need to have it added to the agenda, they need time in advance. So right now, it's listed as the,
Noon Tuesday.
yeah, to me, that would be appropriate that it's at least a day before, in hopes that if it's something easy. If not, they would you would assume there would be some conversations ahead of that time,
Ahead of
right?
that time, right.
But is the board okay with that if it says, the noon Tuesday prior? And, or I guess, what do you think of that last paragraph, if that's essentially how,
I think you'd have to kind of make sure
Tweak
that
it a
the
little
public,
bit.
that the public's aware of it, you know? The
Well,
public aren't gonna be aware of the rules like we should be.
it was prior to this, it was in there as, it was the same day, right?
Excuse me, I left my book on my desk.
It was previously listed as 5
5
business
business
days,
days.
which
Business
was
days.
that was
Same
the
for
Wednesday.
township boards, right?
Same,
It's
yeah.
Wednesday, 5 business days.
I mean, okay. I guess we could,
Just keep it the same then.
so somebody comes
So
in and
this
says,
is
I
a-
want this on the agenda, but as a supervisor or the clerk, I would assume you have some responsibility to make sure it's a valid item, make sure they have, like, is there anything that,
Yeah, people usually call or email me to have it added to the agenda.
so,
This
At
is
least,
the
yeah, you
first
ask me if I
Wednesday
need
of
anything added to the agenda
Yeah,
before you put it
yep,
out, so.
yep.
it says noon on, this is the confusing part.
I just say
Noon of the
Wednesday.
first Wednesday of the month, because our meetings are on the second Wednesday, so it's,
First Wednesday of the
how do you word it to say the Wednesday before?
Because you have to,
Yes, because it has to be.
So I was trying to figure out how to word, I don't know if there's a better way to word that. And
That does make sense.
so
first Wednesday.
if, and is it okay if we reference that our meetings are currently on the second Wednesday of the month to clarify the reasoning, so that if it were to change in the future, there'd be some understanding of why it was the first Wednesday, whatever. So it sounds like take the business days part out of it, use the day of the week, and the board generally seems to support that.
Wednesday by noon.
Wednesday.
And then, so I'm perfectly clear, is that for everybody, board members, or the
Everybody.
general public who are requiring, okay.
Mhm.
Hashtag the sooner the better.
Okay. I could reference that.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about the order of business. So do you, Sarah had, and I know we had some discussion of this nature, should the minutes, if there's more than one meeting, should we approve them all as
All at
one,
the
make a
same
motion to
Consent
approve all of
agenda?
them?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Unless
that's how
somebody
I've always had
unless
it
somebody
done.
wants one
Right,
pulled
if
out.
there's,
Well-
2 or 3 or 4 and,
So I would still
The bills
say,
and the minutes are
we c-
at the same time?
I would say that you would
Right.
still make a motion to approve the meeting minutes, but there's a second motion to approve the consent agenda versus, or were you saying the minutes
no,
should
the
be
minutes
within
should be in the
In the
consent
con-
agenda. So you'll have a consent,
We don't read the minutes to the public anyway, they're a matter of record
right,
up on the
so
wall.
at the
Sure.
last meeting or two, we had, there were like 4
Four
different
meetings, yeah.
meetings. So the consent agenda would be to approve the minutes of, January 1st, January 12th, January 18th, whatever they
Well,
are.
that consent agenda
And then
is
it's-
also gonna include all the reports.
All the reports, yeah.
Right, and it would include the bills, unless somebody wanted to question the bill, they'd have that pulled
Then
from
you
the
can
consent
pull that out.
agenda.
So,
And
yeah,
just likewise with any of the minutes that, you have a question on the second meeting minutes or something, you can pull that out. You have a question on the report,
Yeah,
you can
okay.
pull it out.
My pen just
Yeah.
quit working,
There you go.
thank you.
The,
Okay,
the correspondence information, and then public hearing,
that's,
correspondence
That's always been
information
there,
really
right?
has to stay out, right?
Yeah,
oops,
I think
there's a
so.
mistake here.
Public,
Yeah, that's,
What do you mean it has to stay out?
that's in,
well,
so there's
correspondence
a,
information you read to the public, it's correspondence to the public.
yeah, it's actually, it's hard to tell in this version, but it is separate, it's item 8,
It's-
correspondence,
yeah,
it's not included in the consent agenda.
Okay, and now you have 8 scratched, so where does public hearings go?
Public hearing
'Cause a public
is
hearing is
right
kind of
after
its own-
correspondence. Actually, my version here, it's messed up, is a new line here. It's the consent agenda, which includes the minutes and reports. Then you have correspondence and information. Then you have public hearing. Then you have old business, then new business. So, consent agenda is item 7.
When we have a public hearing, that usually happens in its own
In its own.
meeting.
Mhm.
That's
well,
before the
CDBG.
Well, you
agenda.
can open in public,
right?
open and close it.
Well, that always happens, even
Oh.
the public hearing for
You open and
CBG,
close it.
we open
Open
the
the-
public hearing, we have the
Close
public
it.
hearing.
Oh,
we
that's
close it.
prior to
And
the.
then we
Prior
do
to the main
business of
meeting
public
starting,
hearing and
yeah.
the new business.
Did I add that? I must have, thinking it was going there. So you're
Yeah,
saying.
the public hearing
You're
is,
saying take that
It's
right out
always-
of there.
yeah,
Yeah,
that, public
'cause that would
hearing
happen like
is
at-
what we do that before we even start our agenda.
Yeah, like at 7 o'clock and then the
That's what I
general
was trying
meeting
to
would
wrap my head
start
around, I
at.
didn't know we were doing public hearings in the middle, right?
Okay. I know Sarah had a comment that I didn't get. Let's see.
And under new business allocations for whatever.
Business items, yeah, so that might have just been confusing. The old business and new business are not part of the consent agenda,
Right.
No,
obviously.
actually.
But I think that's what maybe you're referring to, Sarah, in this one comment.
Yeah, Lord knows what I was referring to actually, so.
Okay. 3.2D. So I think that we had some discussion on correspondence, and I think we're maybe all on different pages. So to me, correspondence is, well, we had recently from the county saying, hey, we intend to include a brine application with our limestone program this year. That's correspondence, right? It's not part of an agenda item,
Right.
more just for information purposes.
If it's addressed to the board.
Yeah, so with this
I mean-
board correspondence, we talked about maintaining a binder. Was that the intention of the binder, was for stuff like that?
No, just 'cause like there's, you get so much stuff.
Like what were,
And then just like, so you have a binder out there, this is what we got. And then
meaning,
you would share the correspondence at the board level and have a binder for the public that they can just go through and flip through and see what they want. So we get ours.
well, it'd be part of it. You're saying it's a meeting packet?
No, it's just a
Like
binder
Ray doesn't have
with
it, I
the
call a couple people, they
correspondence
don't
The
in
have
school
there.
districts don't
Because that way if
always do.
people just
Oh.
wanna see, what, they talked about that, let me go look up there and see what it is. And if they want a copy of it, give them a copy.
To me, I would say they're essentially asking for something that was on, it's part of the agenda packet, which is online
Yeah.
now.
Online,
Oh, yeah.
It's all online.
Correspondence is, yeah.
yeah.
So to me, I would say,
Yeah, forget it.
okay. So that's where I'm thinking. So if you're,
Yeah, if they can
now
do
that,
it, yeah.
then I would say it should just simply be each board member shall receive with the agenda a copy of written correspondence addressed to the board and
Right.
leave it at that.
Okay.
So then if they want to have a copy, they can.
Well, again, it's online, or yeah, if they come in asking for it, I think that's fine too. Okay. So. Now we'll get to the, section 4.2. Or I guess it's really section 4.3, classification of employees. So one thing, and I know Sarah had a few comments here,
Yeah.
which are
Sorry.
good. But I kind of mentioned this during the
Well,
budget time.
It's like all over,
Yeah.
you know.
I think a lot of the discussion we had during budget and wages, at least recently, has to do with kind of what has been a historical expectation, of hours here, like specifically the clerk, right? We're talking about Mary recently. Can we, should we, is it even legal for the township to put in any sort of expectation as far as like hour, beyond the statutory duties of?
No,
Okay,
No.
cause what I was wondering is, I'm just saying this to say
It's
my piece
perfectly
now.
legal, it's just not exactly ethical.
Okay, like what I was wondering, kinda,
We cannot
No.
add to her duties at all. We
Mm-mm.
can't say, this is what we need.
well,
to
so
do.
we listen here things that are not, or when we get to that are not statutory duties, I think. But so anyway, just to say my point, you were kinda talking about a manager. And what I was envisioning when I talked about the hour thing was, you know, is there a way, and is it even appropriate to say, here is the base wage for the clerk, the treasurer, all of the board members say, but then, you know, there's extra wage, if you will, if you're here, you know, for hours, or, does that make sense I'm even getting at? Or is that just completely,
No.
okay,
No.
then never mind.
No.
I didn't
No.
flesh that out enough, so,
Yeah.
but I was trying to figure out a way to essentially appease everybody. So
Mhm.
forget that. It's not for today. Okay, so let's talk about at-will employees. So there was the language already in there that talks about the at-will employee, which for discussion purposes, I added it to the part-time and full-time. My question are all the employees, classified employees here, at-will employees? Which I would say
all part-time.
Yeah.
the elected officials are not, right? Are
No.
No, we're not.
And
Contract
the contract employees are not, so.
We don't have
that's-
any contract employees
Well, the
in the
assessor.
township hall.
Assessor.
Oh, yeah, the
Assessor.
assessor, right.
uh,
So that wouldn't pertain to him.
So that's why I was wondering, do we need to, list
And the
that note?
Fire chief has an
Yes.
employment,
Right.
contract with the township.
Right.
That's why I didn't know if we needed to specifically list the at-will employee clause under every classification, or
I think
How do we-
it's stated once, and,
Okay.
it, you know,
which it was,
because it goes without saying, if you have an employment contract, obviously, I mean,
so I think, I would like to move
Pardon?
that up
Isn't it in the
to,
beginning?
under the, under,
yeah.
before A, I'd like to just move.
What-
Yeah,
what-
I
what?
just-
Is it okay if I move that at-will employee language to just before 4.3A, you know, before the elected officials? We'll just, it's more of at the beginning that says it's an at-will employee. Certainly doesn't apply to all, but it just states it up front. Right now, it's right
Right,
after
yeah,
on-call,
it-
but before the fire department, so it's a little confusing on where
Right,
it's at.
class, it can
Okay.
go in 4-3 and just,
So I'm just
like
gonna
you
move
said.
that up.
yeah, and just in the one spot, not
Yeah, got it.
everywhere.
Right to, before, at 4.3, before A, so the previous page. So just put it at the beginning of the section, essentially, is what I'm, if you remember.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, I wasn't sure if there's value in this, and Sarah had questioned it. Contract employees, I listed assessor under full-time
Yeah.
employees, I listed building administrator, and under on-call, I put like, and maybe this isn't appropriate, but I put the parks director under there, building, are those is it appropriate for clarification purposes to attempt to list where everybody fits in?
See, I wouldn't, because if you're a contract
Okay.
employee, you know you're in a contract,
Okay.
you know,
I'm
And
okay with that.
it says right in there, all employees are at will.
right.
But they fall under different,
Yeah, but you're either
Classification.
contracted or at will. I
So
mean, and Michigan's a right to work
you're a-
state.
I mean, if you're a full-time, what I mean is if you're are you a full-time employee, are you on call? Mostly it was related to how you could argue, say, vacation time and stuff, and making it clear that, like the parks director doesn't get vacation time, you know, in a sense, he's on call. But if we don't want it on there, I'll take, some of it was there, I believe,
Yeah, I just saw it.
in the original, but, that's why I thought, well, let's add it to
But
all of them.
it specified that it says that they're not, on call.
Cause, let's see, looking at the red line, so maybe it didn't,
So it says no vacation, holiday,
they're
or bereavement days will be paid to on-call employees. It's F, on-call.
yeah, and that's fine, but what I was really referring to is should we specifically classify, cause it did say under on-call employees are the building inspector and code enforcement officer. It looks like it used to say that. But we don't, it sounds like as a board, we wanna remove any specific references to employees.
I personally would, but it's not, you know,
Okay, I'll try to change that. Okay, that works for me. I was. What was the next? So Sarah had referenced the total hours must, when specifically for deputies. Should we, or maybe this is true for all of them, that part-time employees it lists for the average hours per week for the fiscal year must not exceed the amount budgeted. And is that the same note you're looking for deputies? Should be, it says it already for full-time as well, actually now I'm looking at it. So is the board okay if we add just kind of a general comment about the budgeted for a position note that C and D have, add that to E?
Well, the senior director, yeah, you can't exceed the budgeted amount.
The same would be true for deputies,
It needs to be
Well,
true for everybody,
right.
it should be.
yeah.
or no?
Didn't work this year.
Well, I mean,
But that's why we're gonna put it in the policy and procedure, and we're gonna review this.
Yeah, you
I mean,
cannot
yearly.
work, you cannot exceed the amount that you're budgeted.
So let's make sure that we're budgeting what needs to be budgeted.
I mean,
You
that,
just can't but you know what? and it
Right now,
just
we're
really
working on the
holds
policy manual,
everybody
yeah.
accountable. It's a good thing.
I agree.
oops, and I did, I looked at my notes and I did miss the direct deposit, your next comment 4-4. I was going, oh, that sounds right. I just wrote it wrong. 4-4 is by direct deposit.
Yeah, everybody, you did that one it was last year sometime, everybody had to be
Yeah, well, I
direct
even looked at
deposit.
my notes from the last meeting and I
Yeah.
somehow just screwed that one up.
Yeah, no worries.
It's a lot easier.
Let's see.
I get my Saturdays back not having to sit in the bank drive-through.
Okay, so employee compensation, what,
That's
were you looking for a change, Sarah, to the way this is worded, or just kind of pointing out?
On 4-4,
Yeah, it has to do with the review, compensation review.
hold on.
Right now, it's listed as, during the month of January, which is now, prior to the budget, and then any payroll adjustments were indicated will be effective the first month after the Board of Trustees has adopted the new fiscal year budget.
Perfect.
And that's the way it was written, we didn't change that, I don't think.
Right.
It's perfect. It just needed to be followed.
Okay.
Yeah, that was it.
Okay. I was just making sure I understood that.
I did give Chris those time off sheets.
What's that? You gave them to her?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of time off sheets, so the vacation days did I just wanna make sure I entered that.
I
correctly.
thought you had it in there, right?
Okay.
Full-time employees shall be entitled to paid vacation credit to the employee upon each anniversary year of employment. 1 year, 1 week, 3 years, 2 weeks, 5 years, 3 weeks, 5 or more. You don't ever get more than 3.
Okay.
But that
I just wanna make sure that's what we
Vacation.
discussed.
That doesn't include the senior director?
So,
No,
didn't I make,
full-time
It's-
employees,
Who's part-time,
Yeah.
only full-time.
so
She's
the
still earning
part-time
pay.
employees will
Yeah.
receive, and deputies will receive 1 week
They
paid
get 1 week
vacation.
vacation.
Yeah.
Based on their average weekly hours.
right.
Yeah, didn't I have a comment about,
But I don't-
something? Was that sick days or bereavement? Let me see here. So it says full-time part, we'll talk about, that, I thought
I
maybe
would
it was.
just, I would think that, Donna's as close as we got to full-time employee, being at the senior center all week. She puts in, what, 30 hours a week? 25, 30 hours a week,
Probably,
you know, so we're, you
yeah.
know, working as
20,
much as
40,
anybody
60,
is here.
It says
25.
full and part-time employees, and then the senior director was crossed off, but this was in reference to her. Is allowed up to 3 paid personal sick days per year. In addition, employees are allowed up to 3 paid bereavement days for health, for a death in his or her family, father, father-in-law, mother-in-law. So it is.
Oh, that's right here,
next to
should the
that.
senior director, so shouldn't the deputies, that was my comment.
We're,
So,
where are
well,
you reading?
well, sorry, first, John, you were actually talking about vacation days, correct?
yes. I don't know why the senior director would be considered part-time, being she's there every week, of the month, and she's as much as an
Then
employee.
move her to then, I mean, if she is working 24 hours a week, then
So,
she should be considered full-time.
Yeah, she's putting in at least 24 hours
Because
a week.
her time sheet's like I said, between 80 and 100 sometimes.
Every-
a month.
so it
yeah, a
says
month.
full-time
So
employees
then
are those
she should be
expected
considered full-time.
to work during the normal business
Yeah,
hours
I would
set by
agree.
the township board.
But she has an hourly schedule for the senior center, plus she does her mailers and whatnot before and after, but she's there every day.
Okay. Well, to be honest, that's the hard part about not listing, cause now we're going, well, which, is it,
Yeah, I can see that, yeah.
Well, our part-time employees are pretty much on call. Tim,
well, we
our
have
maintenance
on-call
guy,
employees,
you know,
so-
the
No.
deputies work at the will of their, department heads.
Well, in all honesty, the senior director, what we were calling part-time employees now, we changed, it was senior director.
Was
It-
part-time?
It just,
yeah,
it didn't
they're
call
That's
it,
why I said it
so,
on the page before,
so
right?
really what's happened is we spelled out part-time employees, this was the category, the senior director was the category name, and it says is an hourly employee. And it's, and we
And then-
changed it to say call her part-time with the assumption she was part-time. So possibly,
If you just take that header out
well,
and
we
leave it.
possibly leave
Yeah.
part-time in there in case we have a part-time employee ever, but it sounds like John's saying the senior director in his mind is a full-time employee.
Right.
I would
So-
think
Does
so,
put
I
in a
mean,
lot. She does put
I would-
in a
she
really
manages
good
the
amount of
senior
time. Mm-hmm.
So,
center all week.
and again, prior to us calling the senior director a part-time employee, the way this was written was the senior director and the deputies receive 1 week paid, so we're lumping her under part-time because this is the way it was written before. Now, I guess certainly now is the time to make those changes, if that's what we're thinking, but I'm just clarifying that, it wasn't called part-time before, it was called senior director before, and it was very clear
It was
on
a
what
title,
it's called out.
right, it was a position what we had in the township, but it wasn't part-time. I don't think the senior director should have
So-
ever been part-time.
Our options are either
Even
change
when
it
she's
back to
not there,
senior
she's buying
director.
groceries at the grocery store. Or at the dollar store.
I would just take out the header of part-time employees and leave senior director.
That wouldn't address John's concern, which is giving her more vacation time, if that's what he's looking for.
Well, just to have her included in the full-time entitled, benefits, I don't care if it's
Should we,
bereavement or.
should we change under full-time employees, those
Full-time
expected to
building,
work
building, planning,
or-
zoning, and senior.
well, no, which,
Building
well, 'cause
administrator, planning and zoning administrator, senior director.
I thought we decided to get rid of those headings, right? What I was gonna say was, should we put a note about, 24 hours is considered full-time, and that would classify her as, if she's working 24 hours average? Would that class?
When is our hour, okay, so the town hall is open 24 hours a week.
Yep.
So then, that, and if you're
Well, we're
working
open
28
28, but with
28
lunch
hours,
hours and
actually.
stuff, that's
But
the
no.
actual. No,
There's
nobody
hour
does,
lunch.
but,
We don't close though, so we're open 28 hours.
But it's an hour
Yeah.
unpaid, so it'd really be 24-hour employee, technically.
take it, just take it a half an hour lunch. That way it's 26 hours, and that's.
well, I know, but the
that's-
state law is a half hour for lunch and 15 minutes every 3 hours.
Yep,
Okay.
that's employment law.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was for an 8-hour day though.
It's 15 minutes every 4. I thought, isn't state law
Over
for
5,
3?
second 15 minutes over 5 hours.
Okay.
That's why my guys on an 8-hour day, they got a half-hour lunch, 2 15-minute breaks.
Right.
So, the way my brain works, I am confused with what direction we're going. Are we
Considering her
keeping
full-time.
the positions?
I
Are
would-
we eliminating the specific identification?
I would take out the title,
Okay,
the title and put the hours.
but we're gonna, under full-time, we're going to write, is it 26 hours we decided, or is it 24 hours that we decided?
They're saying it's 24.
To me, it's still technically 24 hours, cause it's the unpaid lunch, it doesn't
You
count
get 2
towards the
paid,
hour.
2 paid breaks.
Yeah, but that's part within the 24 hours.
So you got 6 and a half, so that's, yeah, 26.
26.
So that way they know that you're expected to
Oh,
be
'cause
there
it's 9 to
26
4,
hours
which
a
is
week
technically 7 hours. Okay.
to be considered full-time.
Mhm.
I would.
Say, you said 20, I was thinking
I
when
would
you
say
were talking,
26.
26 hours, so.
Because she
So
probably
by-
puts it in anyway, from there that she's doing 25.
So under,
you know.
under full-time employees, we'll add some sort of note that says,
26 or
26,
more.
average of 26
Yeah.
hours
Yeah.
a week would qualify you as a full-time employee. That would allow potentially the senior director to fall under full-time and meet the criteria for vacation. I'm just trying to be thorough, sorry.
I'm just trying to include the senior director of the vacation, because she's there every day.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay. Okay, so lunch periods, what's this, lunch? Time off plus work breaks. For the benefit of employees, each employee of the township shall be entitled to 15-minute work breaks for every 3 hours worked and a 30-minute unpaid lunch break.
Yeah, that's the labor law.
So we're just saying, Sarah, you had a comment about lunch periods being coordinated with phone coverage.
Yeah,
Should we put a no?
just,
Here.
I mean, I think in the 2 years or almost 2 years I've been here, I can count on one hand and still have digits left over how many times people have gone out to lunch or left the office. I mean, it does happen, but
Yeah, I know, I sit at my
They
desk
go
every
get
day
lunch
for
and bring
lunch.
it back.
yeah,
I
you know,
get
it's
that.
very rare that
But
someone's
yours-
gonna go take a lunch.
Are
and
you saying that
leave
it
the
should be
building.
you're saying there should be
Just
a
as long
note that
as-
says attempt to stagger breaks, to
Well, I
coordinate
mean,
phone
just like
coverage?
if I'm gonna run over to Papa's and grab lunch and bring it back here, just make sure someone knows that I'm running over there so they can grab the phone.
Yeah.
You know, or if anyone else is, you know, going somewhere to grab lunch and they just say, you know,
Be right
hey,
back."
Sarah, I'll be right back, I'm going to grab lunch,
Yeah, it works.
you know? So just be respectful of the other people in the office.
Gotcha. Okay, I'll try to.
I like the way it's worded here. It's good.
What's, I think Sarah's asking to maybe add something that just specifically identifies trying to cover the phone. Do you have any issue?
Well, the
with-
phone is, we got a self-answering phone.
Right,
So,
so it's
We're not-
really
That's
not,
why we got the whole system set up.
so we think we don't really need to list that.
So, yeah, we actually could take that out, because when you call in, you know,
You get the department you want.
right,
But that's still, I would still keep it in there. I think that's a good sentence. I think it's just
Oh,
that
that's there somewhere
you're
else.
showing to work,
I,
you're showing to make sure that if somebody's here to
I missed that.
take care of the public.
So there is a note in there under D, working hours. Lunch periods must be coordinated so phone coverage and daily
Yeah.
business is not interrupted.
yeah.
And you're,
So remove the phone coverage and leave daily business.
lunch periods must be coordinated so daily business is not interrupted.
Yeah,
I'm good with that. Okay, so right now the bereavement says, for the death of his or her family, and in parentheses it lists who qualifies. So
I
you were
just-
saying, do we need to keep the parentheses, or should we
I personally just
call it
would,
immediate family?
immediate family, I mean, that's what it is. I'm, I guess, a firm believer in, I mean, you have to have
Less
these
is more.
policy manuals and stuff, but yeah, less is more, and there's no reason to, actually spell it out completely like that. Immediate family suffices in 2 words instead of 30.
And the question was asked at one point, what about, stepkids, blended families?
I consider that immediate family.
Yeah, I would say that. Same thing. So deputies are allowed bereavement, but no sick time or anything? I guess we're leaving that to full-time or part-time?
Yeah.
Is, okay. So, just thinking, I know there's a clear difference in duties, deputy, but are they're essentially part-time, so now for fairness sake, it makes me think possibly some sick time would be appropriate.
Well, if your deputy's only working typical, like, I know Dawn used to work like just 2 days a week, and Chris would work 2 days a week, and if normally they would come in on Tuesday and Thursday or whatever, just pick days. And
Staggered
Tuesday they
days.
wake up and it's like, oh, I feel really like crap, and they just stay home,
Right.
Okay.
And if I need you, well, I can wait 24 hours.
Yeah, I think
That's fine. I just saw we group part-time employees and deputies get 1 week. Part-time employees essentially the same as far as good staggered days. So if we're allowing part-time employees 3, I'm just looking for consistency. It seems inconsistent, but if the board's okay with the way it is, let's see what it is.
Leave of absence now, or?
Actually, I had no comments. I was going to Sarah's next comment, which was section 5.2. Really, we're deputies as a whole. So for all of the deputies, I had, based on Sarah's actual request, what I think she was looking for at the last meeting, I listed the township statute. That language, it's a little bit lengthy, but it covers, I think, what we're looking for. Is that, did anybody have any issues with how that was written? It's a quote.
That's in there.
Where are you?
Section
Page 22.
5,
Yeah.
really section 5,
Page 21.
yeah, page 21. On that copy, it's
21,
page
22.
22 if you're on the red line. Which is that big red line there. Yeah. It really just took out what was there,
Well, that,
which was kind of the same, but not verbatim of the statute. And then specifically under the deputy clerk, there's that note about the deputy clerk has been given authority by the board of trustees to post all regular and special meetings on behalf of the clerk.
That's already in the, in
Mhm.
here. You can
Yeah.
take that
yeah, it
out.
was at the beginning,
Yeah,
so yeah,
you can
take
take
that
that out.
out.
So where's it, you didn't take, where is it listed?
It's on page 6 already.
Yeah, at the beginning it says,
Where- 3.2, section 3.2.
Okay, I didn't know if you,
I don't know, I would just
I thought it was
keep
worth-
in there too, I would just keep it in there
yeah,
again.
I actually felt the same way, that's why it's there twice.
Okay.
Was possibly listing it in both spots, because it calls it out.
That's fine.
the only thing and I don't know if you've gotten that far yet, on deputy clerk and deputy treasurer, the state law requires that the deputies are to be completely trained and be able to perform the work of the clerk or treasurer should something happen or whatever, except have a vote at the table. And so that is a state law, and it needs to, you know,
Yeah, it's in there.
so,
So does it say, you're saying that statute that's quoted doesn't specifically address your concern about being trained? Is there a different,
Well, it says, in case of absent sickness, death, or other disability of the clerk, the deputy shall possess the powers and perform the duties of the clerk,
right,
except
that-
the deputy shall not have a vote.
right. So that means you
They
have to be able to,
Yes.
they have to be fully trained to be able to
sure. So
walk right in and take over.
Are you saying you'd like that clarified, that they must be trained
Yeah,
somehow?
the
I don't know
state
which-
law does it, and it hasn't been done, so,
I don't know
Um,
any clerk and deputy clerk who knows everybody's job. I mean,
Yeah, I
there's
don't
no
know
way.
how, I guess, if it says that, I'd like to use quote wherever it says that.
I'll pull it up. I
Okay.
thought I did, but I guess not.
It's in there, you said.
Yeah,
it's
the
in chapter
MCL.
41,
Mhm.
section 69.
Mm-hmm.
It is in there. And it's part of the statutory duties of the deputies of both offices.
Doesn't say all duties.
Yeah, but the more that they do stuff though, you're good, Dawn, I bet you probably know more than you think you know.
There's no way I can know.
Yeah, but you know,
Everything about elections and everything she
Right.
does.
but you know what, you would be able to walk in there if something happened. You know, you would, and you would know who to call, you would.
Right, it's
you know,
not saying you
would know
have to
all
do that for the rest of
But you would
eternity,
know. I mean, that's
but you need to be able to step in and just take right over. I know Chris could, if something happened to me, she could walk right in and everything's
And you probably know
a lot more to, oh, absolutely, absolutely,
Oh, and you know what, but you would know who to call,
right.
who to get.
And that's,
part, you know,
Yeah,
at
that's
least
part of
you
it
know
too,
that,
yeah.
that is,
Mhm.
it's a huge part of it. It's like, well, I just did VA training to deal with it, but, you know what?
but it is a
I know who to
law and,
call. I know who to call, it's like, go through that, do it when you can, but then you know who to call.
But it is a law, and I felt it should be in there, cause I know when I first came on here too, I was getting a lot of flack because I hadn't hired a deputy yet. But I didn't hire one until I knew what I was doing, cause there was no way I could train somebody when I didn't even know what I was doing. So I had to figure it out first, and then,
And that's how it is at any job.
right,
It's
and
just
so
like
as
you
soon
walk
as,
in and you just gotta just start doing,
yeah,
and then picking up the phone, help.
mm-hmm,
It's like I'll be calling the IT guy, cause I can't get up, and I'm thinking my Outlook, God, no.
Not even with all the
No, I'll
little
just
notes
call
you
him.
put on there?
Yeah, no,
No,
not
didn't
even
work.
that, I'm going, you know, I'll just call him. I'll have to leave work early one day and call him. It'll be fine. Just if there's anything important, print it out, put it in my thing, and I'll just come and pick it up. That's what I do.
Oh, I did have a quick question. Sarah, on the petty cash, the $5.02. We've
Mhm.
added in here that petty cash will not be used for purchases that exceed $25. Copy of each receipt and a receipt signed by the recipient of petty cash disbursement shall accompany all disbursements. Not that we have a lot of them, but if you keep track of them,
I know, but,
all townships have petty cash.
well, I get that,
never
but
knew
I,
we had.
And they-
it's,
section
I
does it
am
talk
using
about
it
petty
only
cash here?
for making change for people. I am not,
Okay, right here.
it's not gonna be,
So that's your rule. You're not gonna let anybody, if they have to go pay for postage and I come back, oh, I owed, I had 65 cents in my pocket and I owed for postage for election,
well,
you're
yeah,
not gonna
because
pay back?
then, no, it's just, it becomes a pain in
Could
the
it be,
neck for,
Well, it's your job to keep
Just has to
track
be
of petty
maybe by
cash.
a check
I've
or
actually done
something?
that. I've had to
Yeah,
pay postage and get it paid on a reimbursement sheet. I
Right.
didn't get petty cash for it.
no, I'm just saying, you should be able to come in and get $5.02 and I can go pay the post office right away. Then why do you have petty
Oh,
cash if you're just gonna use it for?
You're saying it's not for reimbursement, it's to go pay.
Well,
purchase
we
something?
used to have a lot of them that came back from elections, okay? Dawn got one, this is from last election, November, right? And the post office, they keep track of it, and they finally gave her a bill for $5.02. So I said, just give it to Sarah for $5.02, go get a receipt,
Sometimes it might only be 60 cents or 80
yeah, or
cents.
whatever. And we've always gotten reversed, and they would write, elections on there, and if you needed to reimburse your petty cash, you made a ledger that said elections, postage, supervisor maybe needed a copy of the key, stuff like that, that's just what it's for. So
Well,
if I'm gonna,
What's
if I
the-
need a key
What other
made,
option is there, just writing a check for it?
yeah, you write a check. So if postage due is 65 cents, I'm gonna write a check for 65 cents.
my thought
It just doesn't
process, in the
happen that
2 years,
often.
or almost 2 years I've been here, there's never
it on the
been
township
anything.
account,
And because it was elections, I don't know, do you guys then get that, do you bill the county or the state and get that money back too? I mean, is, there gotta be a paper trail somewhere?
The paper trail will be in a reimbursement is when you keep track of all the statements, the receipts. You say election owes this much, it's for postage. Elections owes this much, it's for copy
Yeah,
paper
well,
or
in the
something
2
like that.
years that I've been
I
here,
know, I'm
there's
just
not
saying,
been any,
I'm just saying
so,
that's what it's used for, and it should be used like that. It's gonna be kept track of, because when I do the invoice, I'll put elections 520. It's for postage. Supervisor needed a key. This goes under office supplies. So
But
it's all,
there
it's,
should always be a receipt.
yeah, there's always a
There's
receipt
always
attached
a
to it,
receipt.
and it's in
And
there.
that-
It doesn't
yeah,
happen
that
too
would be
often.
fine, yeah.
It was just made an issue, and I didn't really think it would be an issue.
You
when a
gotta-
receipt's given.
Yeah. For me, I just do not like petty cash.
I don't
at all.
either,
do
and
not like it.
I don't even like having to give people cash
And I'll tell you
to
why.
change.
Well, then don't
Because
have
we
petty
got
cash.
accused of doing pizza parties. And it's like, what are you talking, well, yeah, they save money for theatrical.
So yeah, take it
I
out of
don't
there
know.
because
I
it's
I
only
think
used to
petty
make
cash
change for
is,
people.
You know,
And
and
I
then
don't
just
even like
do a
that.
receipt thing. I mean, it would be good though, honestly, for what you guys are, but $150, I'd keep it like
Well, it
50.
says
Usually petty cash
25.
is like between,
It says
like-
you cannot.
You
be
keep 150,
reimbursed.
but it says
Yeah.
petty cash will not be used for
Right.
purchases that exceed
Right.
$25.
right,
So I wouldn't even keep petty cash at 150. I would keep it at like $50 for little
But that's what Sarah's saying, when
incidentals.
you
That's
gotta
all it
make
is.
change for $100
That's
bill
all-
and somebody's
that's all
paying
it
their
is.
taxes, you need at least change for
For
$100 bill.
little incidentals like.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe $100 in petty cash? Is that what you're saying?
Well, you gotta cash $100 bill to make your taxes.
I tell people when they're coming with cash that I prefer exact change
Yeah.
because,
Yeah, who has to guarantee that you have?
You know, somebody walks in with $1,400 and it's $1,375, you need change for $100 bill.
yeah. You know, just incidentals, like Monica said, for whatever it is, I
I
mean,
can
the
see the
postage or,
small, but it's probably, sounds
you're
pretty
not gonna write a
infrequent
check
though.
for it.
Because like John said, there should be, if you're making a key, my assumption is you have an account, township has an account at Ace.
I'm just saying, what if
Or
you,
run a
what if
traveler
you
and then
went
you turn it
there,
in once a month.
what if you weren't at,
Oh,
what if you weren't at,
Right.
you were somewhere else and you needed it? You know,
You're
you
saying
forgot to go to
reimbursement.
Vinkers and put it on
Yeah,
a chart,
it's-
or, you know. It's just a tool that helps, and I know we haven't used it in a while, but it needs to be in place. All townships have it, I've called. a
Yeah,
lot of
I don't
people.
think we should get rid of it, but I agree that's kind of shouldn't be very a common thing. It sounds like it's not, right?
no, this was the first time actually. And so that also just threw me because I'd never, it was just like, if it's a postal expense, then you write a check and pay it. You know,
Well, you're not gonna write a check for 63 cents or.
No.
16 cents, you know, yeah.
and I do
But-
agree with that. I mean, the
Then
papers.
Just get a receipt, get reimbursed for it. and-
Okay. Anybody else have any comments, at least tonight? Certainly the changes we made, I'll update, and actually would you prefer I keep all of the red lines from so it
Yeah.
shows all the changes, right?
That's fine, yeah. Other than that, that's good.
I wouldn't print another copy of it until the red line thing is done though. We're going through
Yeah,
some
it's a lot of
trees here,
paper.
yeah.
It is a lot of paper, but it's good, you needed to discuss it, so.
Yeah, there was good discussion.
Well, guys ready to wait till March 2nd?
Yep.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:38.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.